Last Sunday was World Communion Sunday, an event initiated by the Presbyterian in the 1930s. On the first Sunday of October, Christians from every denomination from around the world are invited to celebrate the sacrament of communion, Eucharist, the Lord's Supper, or whatever people may call this. We are all invited to remember that we are more the same than different. We belong to the same body, as Paul reminds us in this first letter to the Corinthians. For just as the body is one and has many members, all the members of the body, though many, are one body. So it is with Christ. If Paul lived today in this 21st century, he would probably have said that we are all part of the same ecosystem. I just used the word ecosystem, and probably you did not cringe or panicked or look at your computer with this weird interrogative look, because the vocabulary, the concept, the concerns of environmental science have penetrated the religious world. One of the most recent examples is Pope Francis' encyclical Laudato Si', in which he addresses the current environmental crisis we are facing. And many voices have criticized the Pope for writing this text. They claim that organized religion is not the place for political activism, especially left-wing activism. As Rick Santorum, a Republican candidate to the American presidency, said, "I think we're probably better off leaving science to scientists and focusing on what we're really good at, which is theology and morality." How to be polite here? Besides the fact that the Pope earned a technician's degree in chemistry before joining the seminary, making him an actual scientist, besides that, I believe this statement could not be more wrong. We cannot make a clear distinction between the world we live in and the business of God. The so-called secular and religious world are interconnected. Our faith, our spirituality, our beliefs are incarnate by our actions, by our words, by our deeds in this world, on this planet. The Roman Catholic Church is not the only one that works on eco-theology, a mix of ecology, theology, eco-theology. This United Church of ours have a long history of seeking to address social, economic, and ecological injustice through many, many reports and documents. We're very good at this. For example, in 1994, a new creed, a statement of faith proclaimed regularly in our churches, was modified to include the words "to live with respect in creation." However, for some reasons, it seemed the principle of eco-theology struggled to permeate our churches and our people. I remember clearly the critics Marty Tyndall received when she was our moderator only a few years ago. They said that our wishy-washy theology about the environment was not what our denomination needed to grow and to thrive. Let's have a reality check here. There are out there millions of individuals who are turned off by church and organized religion because most of us, do not address the people's real concern. In my life, in my career, I never met a minister who have been told, "You know what, Reverend? Let's organize a Bible study on the eye Christology, expressed in the letter to the Hebrews. Most of the young generation churches try to reach out, are wondering if we will have an inhabitable planet in only 50 years. This is the real concern. But reflecting theologically about the current state of the environment, it's difficult because it directly challenges our consumption habits. It directly challenges our privileged position as those who contribute the most to climate changes. We live in a system in which rich countries like ours go in poorer countries in the South, for example, and tell them, well, you have plenty of natural resources, so we will come, we will exploit them, and through this process, you will get rich. And what happened most of the time? Well, the profit goes north, but the problem stays south. Just, for example, this phone, my cell phone, contain minerals mined in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And in the free market mentality, if someone has a product that other people desperately need, these individuals, you expect they will turn a very good product out of it. That's the free market mentality. So are the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo rich these days? No, they're among the poorest people in the world. Well, this country is suffering from a bloody civil war from the last 20 years. I use this every day to text my wife, to show a picture of my son to everyone who wants to see it. Neoliberal global economy has not reduced poverty, inequality, or ecological destruction. On the contrary, it has led to the destruction of the environment and the widened gap between the rich and the poor. And the worst part of it is that we all know this. We know this. And it's not about to change soon. Because why should we change? The resources are just there, up for us to take, to own. And we say to ourselves, if we don't do it, well, somebody else will do it. So, no, let's do it. It's, like I said, it's ours to own, it's ours to possess, it's ours to exploit. And this attitude clashes with what we can read in the first creation story found in the book of Genesis. And you know, those who know me know that I do not promote a literal interpretation of the Bible. What I believe is God was somehow part of the creation of this world. How, I don't know. I wasn't there, but still I believe it. So chapter 1, verses 28, God says to Adam and Eve, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fishes in the fish in the sea, over the birds in the air, over every living thing that moves upon the earth." And notice here that God did not say, you know what, created this world, I don't want it anymore, I'm done with it, so it's yours, do whatever you want with it. No, that's not what the text says. It says this work is still God's creation, and we, human beings, are invited to take care of it, to be good stewards of it. We are called to care from this world as God would. If we are to be faithful witness of God's love for the world, we are summoned to view the earth not simply as a source of resource extraction or wealth generation, but as a place where all have the right to live, to move, to have our being. So unless you're part of the 3% of scientists who denies it or running as a Republican in the US, people know that the continued greenhouse gas the continuing greenhouse gas emission from human production and consumption are leading to rapid global changes, which affect are becoming more and more visible. Almost every day in the news, we have stories of violent storms, historical droughts, crop failure, destruction of fishery, loss of habitat and homeland. Though we are all implicated in those issues, we suffer unequally. If most of us living in rich and developed countries are fairly shielded from the consequences of this crisis, the poor, the vulnerable, the marginalized communities, the people who are often the least responsible for the changes, are the most affected. They are the ones who cannot buy food anymore because extreme weather creates scarcity. They are the ones who are suffering and dying from breathing diseases because they cannot buy air purifier. They are the ones who are constantly pushed closer and closer and closer to the edge. And if you believe that our society is under threat because of the current refugee crisis from the Middle East, well, the looming specter of ecological refugees, people leaving their country because they literally could not sustain themselves, must scare the bejesus of you. And in the first letter to the Corinthians I quoted earlier, Paul reminds us also that if one member suffers, the whole body suffers. Each and every one of us cannot claim that this is not my problem, that's their problem over there. No. It is well understood that what happened in one place has an effect on the whole. And issues that seem global are felt locally in many ways. The connection between many issues previously viewed as disparate and distinct are better understood as many facets of a whole. This climate change crisis is a humanity crisis. The poorer community only feel the effect of the ecological and economic changes sooner and for a longer period than most of us. And throughout the Bible, we can hear the voices of the prophet and Jesus' voice calling God's people to care deeply for the oppressed, to protect the vulnerable, and to work for justice. Well, this climate change crisis is more than a question of sustainability. It's a question of justice for the poor and the vulnerable. Pollution and ecological destruction is a moral, ethical, and a spiritual issue. Our faith requires us to defend the rights and the dignities of our brothers and sisters suffering from the effects of climate changes. We are invited to actively participate in the building of a new sustainable world. We are called to resist to those who are very powerful and whose interests often clash with the life of all of us. On Communion Sunday, like World Communion Sunday, we are invited to share bread and drink from the cups like millions of Christians from around the world. And we are reminded that we are one people, one human family, one ecosystem sharing the same destiny on this planet that we call Earth. And as Christians, we are called to live faithfully in response to the divine imperative to love and care for all. We are called to achieve this goal by living with respect in creation. And as the Patriarch of Constantinople said, let us make every effort possible, each from where God has placed us, to reign a reckless overconsumption, so that the harmonies working of this planet, our common home, may be restored, and that we and our children may enjoy in peace all the good things which God has created and offers to all. Amen.